So a short introduction to Crew for All and our transition from Crew 2030 to Crew for All. Now, for a decade now, Crew 2030 had been existing, and then building a powerful customizable platform for change makers across the world, just like yourselves, to help them equip, train, and connect their communities with the aim of leveraging technology to make the world a more loving, a more just, and a more sustainable place. And last year, Crew 2030 transitioned and became Crew for All, gifting this very beautiful platform to volunteer movement, accelerators, education programs, and so on for free. And this is a very new age for us and shows how we're expanding our commitment to our mission of making community management technology accessible to all movements and nonprofits across the world. Now, today we are talking about gamification. Games really keep us hooked on them for a long periods of time when we are playing them. So what is it about games that bring fulfillment into our lives, and how can we leverage gaming elements and design techniques to engage and motivate people to achieve their goals? Today's Crew Connection and Shared Wisdom calls will explore how gamification can be a powerful tool for program design and community engagement. You will get to learn a lot from our guests because today we are featuring your big year, and we are joined very graciously by Marty, Rachel. Hi, Marty. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
Yes, and we shall be starting now. And before I come to even our guests, because gamification is something that we talk a lot about in Crew. Talis, I would like to throw the first question to you. Why is the gamification conversation very important at Crew? Where did it all start from, and then where is it going to? What is your vision around it?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So Crew's, as Sam said, Crew's background is in youth movements, and about 15 years ago, we learned about gamification when we were running a youth movement in the United States, and we learned that there are principles that successful games hold to keep people engaged and feeling connected and feeling engaged that we thought had a lot of parallels to program design for community movements, for engaging communities. And I think in our platform, we do have a lot of functionality around gamification for community engagement. And I think, I'll let Marty and Rachel talk about, how they bring those principles into their programs. They're really successful at that. But I'll just say, that all of us, if you're here, you probably run a community program or a nonprofit or engage people in a shared mission. And when we do that, we have a lot of agency over the spaces that we create for people to engage with our mission. So that's both like a privilege, right, to get people interested in our mission, and also a responsibility to build and create experiences that feel fulfilling for people and meet all of us humans are very essential needs of feeling connected and feeling like our life has purpose and meaning. So I think, that's kind of where our interest at Crew came from in terms of our interest in gamification. But Sam, I'll share the word back to you, and yeah, I can't wait to hear from Marty and Rachel today.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that very beautiful background. Marty, Rachel, this is now your opportunity to introduce yourself and introduce your big year as well.
Okay, well, I'll jump in, but I need help from everybody here. At the bottom of your menu, there's a thing called reactions, right? And you've got lots of little emojis options. If you click those like 3 little dots, if you're not a big Zoom person, I would love to know how everybody's feeling today, right? And how they feel about being here today. what their moment, how they're feeling right now. And it's okay if you're low energy, feeling tired or whatever, but give us an emoji of how you are. Nice. And it's okay. You can keep changing your emoji too if you have others. I could probably do a few for mine. Nice, Rachel. I need some coffee too. Awesome. And then the other thing that I would love to ask all of you to do, right, is utilize the chat. I won't put you all on the spot at the moment, but what I would love to know from you is like, are there challenges you're trying to solve, right? Are you running an ambassador program or movement or a community group, and there's something that you're trying to solve within that? And then I want to also ask all of you to each help me build like a music festival. So the idea is, if you could be any musician, or which musician would you be? And what song would you be singing? So there's 3 questions there. So what's the challenge that you're trying to solve? What musician would you be, and what song would you be singing? I'm going to just jump into the musician part because that's what's on my mind. Nice. Aretha Franklin, respect. That's awesome. We're going to have a good playlist after this. Okay. So we can put it up on YouTube as a playlist.
That's really nice. As a follow-up to the call, you not only get a recording, but also a playlist.
Yeah.
We like to deliver on some fun. So while you're all putting that in and thinking about your artists and the challenge, we'll introduce. So I'm the executive director for Your Big Year. It's a program run by our company called International Connector, which I founded over 15, 16, 17, I don't know, a lot of years ago. And Your Big Year is specifically a platform that speaks to young people. So it's about a challenge that we put out for young people to make an impact in their life and in their world. And that is our basic, like we start from the beginning with putting a challenge out there to young people. The program provides skill building opportunities to gain professional experiences, all sorts of different aspects about that help you basically take those first steps in life. And we work with corporations and governments and nonprofits also to provide those opportunities and to keep this platform as a free entry point so that we can really address equity. And we have been lucky enough to be working with young people literally across 190 countries. And we're super proud of that because it brings such a richness to our discussions, to how we engage with young people. So yeah, that's kind of the general stuff to start with, and we can always color that a little bit more. But I'm going to go read in the chat, and Rachel, you can jump in.
No, I feel like, yeah, you really covered what Your Big Year is all about. We work with a multitude of ages and a multitude of diverse cultures across. For us, I think what's really important is like the definition of diversity. Often we're quite like black and white, like, oh, it's I'm from this country, you're from this country, or I'm this race, you're this race. But it's so much more than that, right? It's diversity of experience, it's diversity of age, it's diversity of community, of religion, of so many aspects, generation. And so that's something that we really take into consideration for everything we do and really value in our network, because it is a diversity of all those things. And that's what makes communities that much stronger, and our experiences and our participants' experiences that much better. That was probably just the other part that I like to add in. I see here that there is some good songs. I actually really found it hard to pick a song. I don't know why. I had more time than everyone else to choose. Thames Grace. I love Thames. See, that was a good one too. A few of the challenges, I'm just going to read these out. So Anna was saying, supporting a network of non-profit founders who face similar challenges in fundraising growth. Monica, how users can use their points earned no swag option. That's fair. Yeah. Trying to create the best user journey for students to skill up, and then connecting nonprofit leaders to community building technologies. Talise, ideas for further meaningfully connecting our communities of nonprofit leaders. And then Clinton was saying promoting clean cooking practices in rural communities. These are some really awesome things.
Yeah, maybe as we go through that as well, I could ask my next question, which is really for you to, still within talking about your big year, could you talk about specifically what programs? I know you've spoken about, serving young people in, over 190 countries, which is awesome. So what programs are they really getting into as young people in your big year?
100%. I guess I can start and then Marty can jump in. So as like Marty was saying earlier, it's a bunch of professional and personal development programs that we offer. We've got Monica and Lucas here, and we help run their student ambassador program. So that's a program for those interested in mainframe technology to upskill and further their journey careers in IBM technology and mainframe. We run our fellowship curriculum, which is all about discovering your next steps and your action plan. It's all derived under the UN SDGs. And so people can sign up for our programs, and we select 50 people per cohort. And they get 3 months of discovering themselves, the SDGs, their network, and like these really relevant skills that can help, basically these future ready skills that are really going to help bridge that gap from academia to career, or they're one step where they are now in their journey to that next step. And then we also have projects where corporations such as Microsoft or Google will hire us to tap into this diverse network that we have and really want to hear their voices from them. So we create these projects where we can connect them into these corporations for these short-term essentially projects or studies. And then what else do we do? No, I always forget. Oh, Global Citizens Challenge.
Yeah.
The biggest one. We just did it a few weeks ago. Which is like one of these, it's an awesome event, a 4-day event where youth from all around the world come together just to cross-cultural collaborate, right? They're there to learn about other cultures, which we all know the value of travel and from bursting our bubbles and meeting other cultures. And so it's 4 days concentrated on that, right? Learning from industry leaders in the tourism world, which they talk about their journeys in travel, and then essentially just talking to each other. But that's kind of some of our programs.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Marty, could you form for us the relationship between International Connector and your big year? I mean, founding International Connector and all these years, what led you into your big year?
Yeah, actually, I started with your big year. I mean, I had founded International Connector, but for sort of other reasons. And I was working on your big year, but really where the company has developed came out of your big year, which is the fact that we were working with young people all over the world. And your big year actually started as a travel competition, and it was a global challenge that we put out there to young people that they could win this trip, and it was a learning trip. So we brought together initial groups, and we ran this quite a few times, where they would come from all over the world and then participate in these learning experiences. And so there was a lot of, we can get into a lot of gamification around that, but basically I was really just inspired by the young people, and I was starting to notice a lot of trends around the world, how just young people, just because of where they're born or where they're from, they're just left out of the equation. And that was really troublesome from my standpoint. And then at the flip side, companies were taking notice because it was sort of the height of the millennial craze, where they didn't really understand the millennial generation, and they were having like major campaigns that were just bombing. And so they were like, how are you getting all these young people involved? And like, why are they coming to you when we're failing at this and we're throwing money at this? So a lot of what we do today actually came out of those initial conversations, because it was bringing together the two groups in a very authentic way. And so now we keep them deliberately separate in some ways in messaging, because when we're providing a business solution, that's a business to business conversation. But when you're talking to young people and you're inspiring them and you're providing leadership skills and actual skills that they, that they need in the world, and creating that place, it really needs to be its own entity and its own brand. And so Your Big Year continues to exist to have that challenge.
Awesome stuff. Now, let's get into the gamification conversation.
Yeah.
Because there is already a lot of background around, who Your Big Year was and the gamification that already went into that process. So maybe let me start with you, Marty, first. What does gamification mean to you as a person, and what does it mean to you professionally as well? And then we can come to you, Rachel.
Yeah, I think my definition of gamification is probably a little bit broader than what it, can be, right? You can, at the basic level, right, you're playing a game and you're winning points or you're winning something. I think we have broadened that professionally into how do you create an experience? How do you create something that's engaging? How do you build out something that's multidimensional? And I believe with a lot of our programs, there are gamification techniques built into so many different aspects of it, and used in so many different ways. But gamification is really about creating that shared experience that creates community and something that is, interactive and engaging.
Love that, creating a shared experience that builds community. Rachel, what about you? What does gamification mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to stray too far from Marty's, right? We've worked together for 5 years, so naturally we've got a pretty similar opinion about it. But it really is just kind of really elevating interactivity and engaging people as much as possible, and that sense of belonging, right? Gamification should add to a program, and I think it's that multidimensional space for sure. And then you ask though, about, I don't know if you've asked us this yet, but it's like what your experience with gamification is. Since Marty kind of got the definition, I think about the simplicity of, like, in my life of, I've always played football. So that's gamification in itself. That's always trying to win, and trainings, there's always points, or you're the small sided gain. So it's like, it's always a part of everything we do, and that motivation, to improve, to upskill. We've got Lucas here who's talked about, like, wanting their students to upskill. It's like that same concept. And I think so we have those, like, personal experiences that really translate over into our definition online, and it's seeing what you can translate from in person to online, which is quite interesting.
Brilliant. Let's actually just talk about that transition from in person to online, because you gave a very good example. And we've already figured that Your Big Year already had some gamification, elements when it was an in-person thing. So how has that transition been, looking back at how it was then and how it is now?
Great question. It was all a game originally. I mean, every single element. So we would put out a call for a travel competition, right? Your big prize that you're going to win. And to win that prize, it wasn't just putting your name in. You actually had to accomplish certain steps to do it. And they were all, like, gamified. So one time we had a 24-hour quiz, and people had to compete and, like, get a new question every hour. Another was about we gave out a series of types of prompts that they had to send in pictures of them, in action doing some of these activities. So the whole thing was gamified just to get to the winning pool of people. And then we had the people come together, and their learning was gamified. So every aspect of the task that they did together were put into games. So for example, let me think, like we've had so many different ones, but I think like with Vodafone, we did this competition, learning competition, where they actually had to take a selfie of themselves, like talking about their goals and ambitions. And then we posted all of them, and then we had a crowd vote on the best one, right? So we were both engaging the audience that had been with us, as well as engaging the young people who were there competing with each other to win another prize on top of their trip that they already won. So everything was really multi-gamification techniques and put into that. Translating some of that online, I mean, we just in general changed what the program was. We wanted to see, like, what are these skills that they're learning? Why are they doing this? What is really the purpose about it? And also, it's great to have community engagement, but is that quality? And sometimes games are really great source to get a lot of engagement, but you may not love the engagement you get out of it. So what and that was sort of the case with us. We wanted to see a much more quality experience. And so we created different programs that really address the challenges that young people were facing and the things that we saw that were working the most. And we got them involved in that design of the different programs as well.
Yeah. And just to maybe add on to you, Marty, it's really, redefining it is, it's really about the journey of young people in the programs that they do with us now. And again, gamification's there to elevate their journeys, not take over it. So that's how we also approach that. And that's why it's really important we have that multi-dimensional lens to allow for different people to participate in different ways.
It's almost like you stole my next question, because I was going to ask what was doing to community engagement. But you know, those are such brilliant answers that, you know, it's supposed to elevate the community engagement. But I would like you to also reflect a bit about community engagement and program design with gamification aspects, especially from your last point that it's meant to really elevate the experience and not take over the experience. You know, what are your thoughts around that, and what has, you know, your practical experience been really creating this online experience for your young people?
Yeah, I mean, our biggest challenge is, right, like we have young people all over the world, so you've got to try to create community, and you create community in different ways. We've got our target audience are younger generations, so you also have to be able to catch their attention. And that takes a lot of like energy and novelty and different visual components. And again, you know, helping them feel belonging. That's not the right way to say it. Helping them feel like they belong to a community. So we look at it, you know, each of our programs targets a different group and is there for different reasons. And maybe there's some overlaps, but in general, we have to really think about each program separately and think about what that journey is, what our goals are with that program, who we're trying to impact, and then how do we catch their attention? How long is the program? Because if it's a short program, it's actually a lot easier to capture you know, the full energy. When it's a long program, what does that look like? And then how do you reinvent it along the way to reinvigorate energy or to bring in, you know, the next level of incentives? And so gamification can be a really great tool within that. And gamification can be, right, it can be prizes, it can be badges, certificates, what? Recognition, yeah. Different levels that people, you know, become a leader in a program, or they get shout outs and recognition through social channels or other ways. It can be something career oriented. It can be access to a new learning experience, right? So the first part you get access to, but now you can, work to get access into the next. It can be points that are then translated into something. It could be a cash prize, which helps for us when we're dealing with so many different logistical places, or it could be a physical prize, right? Like a hat, or they get to speak in an event. I think it really depends on the people that you're dealing with, right? And, whether you're in person or virtual on that, but being able to create what your system is, and then how you go through that system and outlining that clearly for them helps them see where the incentives are and what they need to do.
Yeah. And just to like add on to you, so it comes back to that, really understanding who you're building the program for. And because that understanding that will allow you to gamify in a way that's specific to them. And then because we are dealing with different young people all the time, it is, okay, this young group is motivated, it seems to be more motivated by this. So it is constantly, I think, for us adjusting and getting to know our community, which for them, again, gives them a sense of belonging. Like we do genuinely care about what motivates you towards that, like, and getting towards that end goal.
Just hold that thought on understanding and all that, because I'm going to ask a question about that just shortly.
Sorry, I'm really jumping the gun with you today.
You're really taking me fast, but
Not
not
bad.
to the task. I want to find out, because Matthew, you spoke about, sometimes it depends on how long the program is, and then you can figure how you gamify it and so on. So what has your experience been around? You spoke about it helps to capture attention very quickly, especially for shorter term programs. But what has been your experience been around retention, keeping people engaged over a long period of time? How would that look like in practically?
Yeah. I think in today's world, especially, I don't even think it matters whether it's in person or virtual, but you are going to have drop-offs, right? So you just need to know that going in, and plan for that, and understand that's part of the process. And especially since COVID, it's been even worse in numbers and what we see from across like any program, not just ours. But like people just there's things that interrupt programs. And I think people get frustrated fast. And I think you just need to take a step back and just realize what that flow is. So create something that allows for that flow to happen so that you don't feel the tension of it. I think then for a long-term program, right? Again, working with your community to hear from them about what they want and involving them in that design process does help, right? You can go forward with an initial plan, but then have your check-ins and have time to evolve the program. Don't get so stuck on something, because what worked one year may not work the next year. Or the next month. And so I think that those are things that, we go through a lot. It's like, okay, let's, scratch all of that stuff. Let's come up with some new stuff that will incentivize and reinvigorate. So creating novelty that way helps. But I do think at the core of any program and any gamification technique is connection. And yeah, that's hard when you're trying to scale something super big, and you still can have human connection when it's super big. But how do you create that balance where people feel like they're accountable to somebody, or they want to be there for a social reason, or they don't want to miss out on something? Social clout goes a long way. So that playing off of those aspects can help you scale something to a larger audience and keep them in. And then I think cautionarily, you want to watch that you don't make it so far ahead that then somebody who's dropped off for a while can't find a way back in, that they've missed too much. So it's a real balance in there of like really addressing, like, here's another incentive, here's another, but I can't get into this. Like, I'm too far out of it. Like, you don't want that feeling. So try to find a right balance of what that cadence is.
That's an amazing point, Marty.
Yeah, love it. And then you've spoken about stuff that I now want you to tie together with my next question.
Okay.
Because, at some point we spoke about the different forms, the different reward systems, progress tracking, social incentives that, could form gamification techniques. And we've also spoken about how it's important to understand different approaches and how we need to tailor, the approaches to meet the program needs, but also the community's needs and the goals that you want to achieve. So I want you to tie these things together, and I'm going to throw this to you, Rachel. How would someone who's listening on the call, how would they go about designing a gamification strategy for, their online community? What are the factors that they need to put in place to consider and so on?
I see why you told me to pause on my answer before. Because it's at the core is understanding your audience. It's why have they signed up to your program originally? What have you advertised for what they're going to gain? And then from there, Marty was talking about the longevity of the program. So, okay, you're going to have these amount of youth or this amount of audience at this age or this category. I would say start there, and from there you can start to strategize what the right methods or the right gamification styles will work. And then from there it is just, as you design, it's checking in, it's cross collaborating within your own team, and it's just and adapting as you go. Not sure, do you have anything to add, Marty?
I mean, I think Crew has some really great steps just in terms of thinking about gamification. So I encourage you to ask them for those steps on it. But I also just think, a lot of it is just in the planning stage, right? And you can add more gamification along the way, right? So you don't have to have all the ideas up front, because again, you'll see what's working. You'll be able to adjust it. But the more clarity you have in terms of like, okay, now we're starting this, and giving people time to digest that and to jump into it, I think that also helps in rolling out different things. Oh yeah, go on, Rach.
No, you just sparked me. Sorry. It's like in the strategy, it's defining the journey first, because then the gamification can add to that journey and helping them get through it. So unless you've defined the journey, the gamification is just random, right? But it has to have meaning for it to work. Yeah.
Again, just taking the answers of my next questions.
Oh, sorry, I did not mean to.
No, it's awesome, because I was going to ask how do you then balance gamification with other strategies, but you've given a perfect answer for it. I'll go to the next question and I'll ask, what are of course, again, we've already spoken about that sometimes gamification, if you over-gamify your program, it could easily take over the experience instead of adding and elevating into the experience. Could you, reflect a bit more on that and speak about any other potential downsides to gamification in terms of thinking about program design and community engagement as well?
I mean, I think the biggest downsides are that it can create energy, but not always quality. So again, like we brought that up earlier, but I think that's a really important part. I think also sometimes you can go too far and have too much in there. One aspect, like, thinking about gamification, right? We talked about it as like prizes and other aspects, but it's also a visualization, right? And creating story, creating layers on it. I actually, I can show some visuals after, but like there are certain parts of our projects that we do that just layer in the concept of going on a journey from the start. And we actually like create visual boards for people to come on to engage, right? And we don't have to have gamification in this, but we do to catch attention from young people, to get them to think differently. And that's part of our program design, right? So it can be the curriculum, it can be the activity that they have to do, but we'll visualize it in a different way.
Great. Rachel, anything to add?
Not at this second.
Awesome. Right. Well, we are now 41 minutes on the hour, and I would like to take this opportunity to invite you to share your screen, and then share your Crew platform. And, you know, if you could share a few elements of how you've gamified it, so that it inspires some of our community admins on the platform, on the call rather, as well, that would be awesome. And then I'm also inviting everyone and anyone on the chat, if you have any question, any comment, any suggestion, anything you want to learn about gamification, please place it on, you know, like put a question on the chat, and or a comment or whatever, and just let us know.
Yeah.
But we'll give a chance for anyone to speak if they want to speak after the showcase of the platform.
I'll share the platform.
Okay, yeah, I have one. I have the platform up for part of it. We have so we use Crew in different ways. So Rachel will show some and I'll show some. We'll play around. Can you see my screen?
It is coming up.
Okay, cool. So this is actually from one of the event sections where we use it for Global Citizens Challenge. And, you know, we set this up like an agenda because that's what we needed. And the challenge has different aspects each day. So we wanted to break it down in a really easy way that from that standpoint. I mean, the lovely thing about Crew is that it does have inbuilt capabilities that allow us to do different things. And so sometimes we use the point system, and sometimes we can award internal badges, and Rach, you can talk about that. But we use it, you know, as much of the visualization, I think, is really helpful and important in it. So one of the things that this challenge goes off to is that it takes you to other things that also continue to add to our interactivity and the things that we do. I'm actually not going to take you to this board. I'm going to take you to it, but if you clicked here, it takes you off to another board. This one, like, again, any way that you can bring visualization into it. I brought this one up to kind of emphasize the points. Like, we created a world here that takes people on a journey. And this really had nothing to do with this world. It's just that we wanted something that really drove engagement. So we thought about our audiences, and they were broken into 3 different cohorts. And so we gave them visual flags so that they would have to compete against each other in the cohorts on like where they were. We created a story around it, their mission that they needed to do, right? We created the world that it was all in, right? Added in some fun things that move, and you can come in and out and see people, they introduce themselves, the flags are everywhere. You know, it's a very visual experience. And so we bring this type of stuff into our Crew platform as well. And this is like, our group is like organized through Crew, and then they were brought to this for this specific activity. So we always, I guess, connect to some of our other activities if we can't do it specifically on that platform. But again, in this, why I bring it up is because if you think about it, right, this is a game within itself, and it makes our community super motivated through the project because of the visual, because of the fact of like they have to accomplish something. They're in 3 groups. And so, and they're competing as a group, right? Creating opportunities where groups are working together, and they're working against another team, right? It's that always motivates people to get stuff done faster, to move stuff forward. So those are a couple different aspects to think about. And yeah, for us, mainly, a lot of the things are built around creating, you know, again, like having different types of engagement. Feel free to jump in anytime, Rach, but just like with videos, activities, things that break it up. People are not going to just read, right? So what are your ways of bringing stuff forward that allow you to do that? So throughout our crew, like we're always looking for what are those activities that, you know, this one is an assessment like you can go and do, right? It breaks it up, and that is part of gamification as well.
I'm happy to take over on the screen.
Yeah, and then, well, I'll just mention this, like we call it Mission Possible in ours. So at the end of each of our tracks, we have a mission that you have to accomplish. And so we've had activities and different things along the way, but then our mission at the end, you can't move on, you can't get your badge, you can't go forward unless you've done this mission. And so there are different types of missions depending on where you are, but that has, as a theme throughout, really worked in terms of gamifying.
So no, as Marty was saying, so I'm going to be starting with the same screen, right? So it's just to show you like the way in which we take them through the journey of our Make an Impact curriculum, right? They come to here. And as she was showing you these Mission Possibles, you can earn your badge. So you've got to go through. And the badges are given throughout the fellowship, right? So it's a stagnant reminder and a stagnant motivation. Stagnant, I don't think that's the right word, but you know, as throughout the fellowship, you'll get different badges. And then so you end up with your profile. So for them, they can see their badges visually. They can see when they haven't earned it yet. They can see the progress. Say, oh, I'm 50% through from earning my Make an Impact Fellowship badge. So that's all part of that gamification, really utilizing the crew assets. And we're even in the middle of even upgrading this more with crew. So we're very, very excited. But then we even take it further, like as Marty was saying too, is that we help them, like they put together their own puzzle pieces, right? So it's actually, you'll see that the participants are able to take it that next step further and create their own puzzle and their own journey, even more so, and really tie that all together. So I just was wanting to show you that quickly, because it does show the different ways and how we bring it together as well, using that badges, that journey, and then them putting together their puzzle piece.
Awesome stuff. I'm super inspired, as is, I think, Anna on the call with me. It looks very amazing. And I can see that we have no question on the chat.
We've answered it all.
I am I'm hoping that everyone on the call is just amazed at everything that is going on, but we have a comment which we'll deal with separately. But maybe one final question from me. Oh, Clinton has raised his hand. So maybe we'll give it a chance. Clinton, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, yeah. Good evening, everyone. Marty, Rachel, everyone on the call. I'm Clinton from Nigeria. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It was so interesting, like watching the presentations. It put a lot of thoughts in my mind. And, to see how important it is to, add some kind of fun and rewarding, task to the work we do, because sometimes people are so serious, especially when you're trying to make an impact and you're trying to have people to, follow up and then just ease up a little bit with everything going on. So just to go to the question, I would like to know, like, for starters, are there like, short programs, or are there like already built-in games that can be infused to, to both online virtual meetings and also like on platforms? So.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think with anything, it's easy just to start with what tools you have, right? Incorporate, don't feel like you have to throw things in, because that may not always work, right? So start with just some easy starting points, right? In Zoom, if you're using that, if you're online, right, there are the reactions, the emojis that we were just talking about. We had a meeting the other day where we were all creating our avatars, or picking our avatars on Zoom, which you can do. And it was really ridiculous and what it did to the whole meeting. I mean, even in just at the beginning, why we wanted to know about the music, right? Now I know something more about you and each of you, and I'll remember that much more. And so as a group activity, you've got that, right? And then we'll put the pressure on Sam if he can send out our playlist. Like, it'll start to spark more things, and you'll remember that, and it'll add into everything that you're doing, right? Like thinking about things from multi-dimensional or different sensories. It just that personal question, but it's a fun question, just adds to the whole meeting, and it changes the energy in the room. And so when you're thinking about gamification or interactive, you really are just trying to change the perspective or change the energy. So what can you do to spark that? And it doesn't have to be like, there are plenty of tools out there. I can have Sam send out a list, but sometimes those tools can be more distracting than helpful. So you just have to balance it and find the right moment to introduce them.
Great. And I see we already have our playlist. Honestly, it's not on me anymore.
Thank you. Thank
So
you
good.
for that. That was quite insightful.
Thank you, Clinton, for your question. Awesome question. And then thank you, Matthew, for the answer. That was awesome. Maybe let me ask my final question, because we are really gearing towards the end of the hour. I really don't want this call to end, because there's so much wisdom that we are getting, all of us. But one final question from me is, gamification can be a very powerful tool, as we have just seen, for fostering, a sense of community among the users and creating a shared sense of purpose and identity. But it's important to ensure that the elements really align to the values and the goals of your program, to ensure that it doesn't give unintended negative consequences. And we've spoken about some of the things that we can do. So what steps would you think are important to undertake to be able to monitor and to be able to adjust any gamification strategy for any program as needed?
Check-ins with your community. Rachel's super good about doing that. And yeah, I think don't get so stuck on something, and introduce slowly, right? Because especially if you haven't been doing it, which is also why I think, like, use some icebreakers or some, ways to bond your community as a whole first. And then, if you can have like accomplishment points, like a badge or certificate or something, those are great tools to introduce first. And then you can start to figure out, well, okay, I need to make a bigger leap, or they're not quite getting to the accomplishment. What can we do to incentivize them to move further? Or how can I create the content and deliver it in a way that maybe incorporates more interactive techniques? So I think like layering your pieces are the best way to do it.
Brilliant. While you still have the mic, any parting shots for the amazing leaders that we have on the call?
Go for it, Rach.
Any parting words? I just think and enjoy the process and yeah, and like enjoy the journey. And I think it is just really, as Marty said, I love checking in with our community. It's just always check in. The people that you work with want to be heard. That's the key about everything. So let them be part of that design and be a part of the process with you as needed. It's all about the journey, right? And so the more you can bring on board, the better.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much. You know, if I was with you in your rooms, I would stand up and give you a standing ovation. Thank you so much to, of course, the organization Your Big Year and the two of you for honoring our invite, sharing your wisdom with us. It's been awesome. This has been the fourth Crew Connection and Shared Wisdom call in the 2022-2023 season. We shall be hosting our next call around innovative social entrepreneurs in Africa, featuring another of Crew's partner called My Little Big Thing. And we shall hold this call on March 30th at 9 a.m. PT or at 7 a.m. East African time. An invite will be sent to you all as long as you've signed up for this. Of course, for everyone on the call, you know who Crew is, you know what Crew does. You will also get a link to the recording, to a blog from the call, links to our playlist, links to, you know, Your Big Year's website and so on and so forth. And if you're new to Crew, please find out more and build your community and online platform for free by visiting crewforall.org. Now, for all Crew admins who are on the call, we have one great opportunity for you with Pachamama Alliance, who are offering their free leadership and content curriculum for Crew admins who would like to offer that curriculum to their communities as well. It is a transformational 8-week course, and it's available to any Crew member who would like to undertake it. It requires about 3.5 hours of the time for your community members for each week for 8 weeks. And yeah, so please feel free to register when that call comes round, and we'll be looking forward to having you on that cohort. Now, from me and from Crew for All, till we see you on 30th March, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and yeah, may God bless you and may you receive all your desires. Bye.
Thanks so much, Sam and Talise. It was amazing.
Bye-bye. Thank you all. Thank you, Sam. Thanks, Marty and Rachel. You're amazing.
Right back at ya.